Hi, I'm Jason, the Curious Psychiatrist, and I'm so happy to meet you. As a psychiatrist, I like to look at things through the lens of the human psyche, and today I'd like to talk about how the evolution of human thought can be seen in the evolution of art. We as a species have been around for hundreds of thousands of years, and we've always wanted to express our thoughts through paintings and sculptures. And today I'd like to talk about those same paintings and sculptures and see what our thoughts have been during the past 3 millennia. We're going to start, take a few stops in the middle, look at the Renaissance, the Impressionists, and finish with Picasso. And one more thing, I'm going to focus on Western art because it's usually more well known. So, here we go. In ancient times, all art was centered on religion. So, all art was about God, the gods, or godlike humans. And artists made painstaking efforts to ensure, to guarantee that the central figures were depicted as godlike as possible. If we go to ancient Egypt, we can see some great art and great examples of this. This is the great temple of Abu Simbel, and one of the places I'd really like to go and see one day. I'd like to point out two things about it. First, of the four colossal statues in front of it, all four are of Ramses with no mere ordinary humans included. Of course, some of the smaller statues are of his family members, but they're not ordinary either, are they? And two, as you can see, Ramses is made to look majestic, grand, and utterly straight and still, making him look more godlike than human. Pharaohs were considered intermediaries between the gods and the humans, and so they were as close as the gods as you can get. Furthermore, the fact that art was manufactured following a predetermined manual rather than created from inspiration ensured that a tradition of godlikeness was continued. If we jump about 1,000 years and go to ancient Greece, we can see that some things have changed. Humanism was a central piece of Greek culture, and you can see it in Greek mythology. Greek gods were much more humane. They were jealous, they got angry, they got mad, they got into fights. They were much more humane than the gods before them, and they also looked nearly like us. This can be seen in art. This is the Artemision bronze, Artemision being the place where it was found. Now, we know it's a god, but we don't know which god it is. Because we don't know what he's holding. Is it a thunderbolt, a trident? And as you can see, he is much more dynamic, lifelike, and naturalistic than Ramses. Rather than standing still, he looks just about to smite someone. Furthermore, ordinary people were sculpted during the Greek age too. Just like this boy who's running in a marathon, or this archer who's been restored to his colors. Now, if we jump another 1,000 years, we end up in the medieval period and see that things have changed again. Now, there is only one God, and that God occupies much more of the human psyche than the other gods before him. This change in human thought was reflected in art. Once again, God and godlike humans, who were called saints, by the way, became still, solemn, and regal reserved, like this. The medieval period can also be divided into several parts, and Duccio, who painted this, was from the last period called the Gothic. It's not that much before the Renaissance, but you can see that it's very different from the works of Da Vinci or Michelangelo. The figures have traditional halos, and while they are, albeit much more dynamic and detailed, maybe even expressive than before, you can't exactly say they're expressive or lifelike. In fact, this is called the Last Supper, and we're going to compare it to Da Vinci's later on. Starting with Egypt, we've seen how art was centered on religion, and then saw how it became more humanized during the Greek period, and then reverted back to religion during the Middle Ages. Now let's see what happens when humanism comes back on the back, literally on the back of the three great Renaissance masters. People tend to think of the Renaissance as a novel trend or movement, but actually, it was about bringing back or re-examining the past, which in the Western world's case, it was ancient Greece. Whether it was due to pessimism or nostalgia is up for debate. But for us, it means humanism returned, and art was more centered on us humans again. Of course, religion was still a big player in art. But even religious art began to change. It became more humanized and showed more expressions of emotion, as you can see here. This is the Pieta by Michelangelo, and it is a sculpture of the Virgin Mary holding the body of Christ after the crucifixion. To those of you who've had the good fortune to go and stand in front of the Pieta and look at it in awe, in so much awe that you're desperately close to wetting something, I'd like to say, yes, me too. And to those of you who haven't yet, I strongly urge you to go see it, and soon, before someone tries to destroy it again. Then some of you will inevitably ask, so what's the big deal? The big deal is its emotion, the raw emotion, the sadness, the deep pain of a mother who's just lost her son. The fact that Michelangelo sculpted this when he was just 24 makes it even more incredible, because how would he know what a mother would feel in a situation like this? And also, isn't it a far cry from the solemn, still, and stiff figures from before? And just 5 years. 5 years after making a masterpiece for all ages, Michelangelo did it again, this time with the David or David. Honestly, the first time I saw it, I was totally unprepared. I was walking through the Galleria dell'Accademia and turned the corner and down the hall. Wow, it was there. The hall was the hall of slaves, and at the end of it stood the David on a pedestal high above us mortals in all his beauty and glory and splendor. And the amazing thing was, the hall was about maybe 30 meters long. The amazing thing was, the closer I got, the more magnificent he became. Now, a few things about him. First, you can see that he's standing straight, but not straight. The term is contrapposto. And he's also tense, but relaxed. And he's neither muscular or skinny. He's just slender. He is human. And he has the form of a human, and looks just like someone you might meet on the street one day, if you're very lucky. But also, he radiates beauty that was once reserved only for the gods. If the Pieta was about emotion, the David is about the beauty of the human form. And then on to the Sistine Chapel, on the ceiling of which is painted this. It is one of the most revered paintings of all time. And when I went to see it, my heart was beating in anticipation, my senses were turned up 110%, And I was so so ready to see it. But when I entered the chamber, I was let down. The damn ceiling was just too far away to see with my own eyes. And honestly, looking at it was a literal pain in the neck. I know Michelangelo didn't paint it for me to see, but it would have been really nice to be able to properly see it with my own eyes. Now, I just like to point out one panel in this painting. It's the one in the middle, titled The Creation of Adam. It depicts the moment of creation, and what hit me was that God and Adam looked pretty similar. The Bible does say God created man in his own image, but still, no halos, no completely stiff and unnatural poise. It seemed as if Michelangelo had brought God to us in a human form. I've been talking about Michelangelo not because he came first, but because his arts easily show the humanization of religious art. Now, I've been aching to talk about Da Vinci and the Last Supper, so here we go. This painting is very moving, both emotionally, but also physically. But it's not immediately apparent. It's easier to see if you compare it with this. Now, can you see how different they are? While Duccio's apostles sit still and serene around Christ, Da Vinci's apostles have been grouped into three and are sharing each other's pain and shock, as if Christ has just told them that he is about to be betrayed. Meanwhile, Christ sits in the middle and looks down with mournful eyes. In a way, it is similar to Pieta in that it depicts human emotions in a very acute way. And then came Raphael, the last of the three great Renaissance masters. And Raphael painted this, as if there was any lingering doubt of what Renaissance meant. He brought together all the great scholars of Greece and painted them together right smack in the middle of the Vatican. Though it is not emotional or depicts the beauty of the human body, the fact that a group of non-religious people were painted together in a non-religious painting just because they represented the originality of human thought shows how much humanization has progressed. We're going to leave the story here today and come back next time and see what happened after the Renaissance. See you soon and stay tuned.